Nowadays, a lot of people are struggling to find jobs, and once they find interviews, they're also struggling to crack them.
First of all, picking up the resume itself is taking and load. Then cracking that is another big thing with so much competition.
I've also interviewed a lot of people to hire for my team recently. I've seen all kinds of different things at a very broad level, right? Product management typically has these interviews where you talk to a recruiter first, and then you talk to a hiring manager, and then you probably have, not probably, most of the big companies typically have a product design, I think in Meta and other companies they call it product sense, and that you have a presentation, and that sometimes you also have it like a technical round. So Srinath, what do you think people should do to prepare for like a hiring manager round interview?
So hiring manager is one of the first after recruiters that you would come, and it's one of the most important too. So what the hiring manager is gonna test is whether you are a role fit to that position or not. So whether you have all the you have necessary skills to be successful in that role.
Mainly you should know research about the company, research about the product, research about the role in itself, and probably the last thing they should also research about is another thing. It's not just about you impressing that person, it's also about understanding that person, because you're gonna probably work with that person for the next few years.
Yeah.
Otherwise your next 3 years of your life is gonna be very difficult.
Yes.
I've been recently seeing some videos on people using AI tools. So what are your thoughts about that?
You have to be smart at using it, not like you do it like for everything. Hiring managers are intelligent. Nowadays they know that AI exists, so they can easily make it out.
I would tell the same to people as well. Don't use AI tools during the interview. You might feel like it gives better answers, but people are not expecting better answers. How do you think people should prepare for the product design questions?
So the best way to prepare is doing some kind of lot of practice. It's not about number of cases you do, but the how you think from the different problem standpoint when thrown at you.
How you think about preparing for the presentation? Any thoughts there?
I think a couple of years ago, probably this was a lot tougher because you had to build everything from scratch. Nowadays, with so many AI tools and templates, probably it can help you to make this faster.
Many times, what I've also seen during presentations is they'll ask you, tell me one of the products that you worked on in the past. Focus to the journey.
It's not like a company presentation, office presentation. Oh, you're gonna demo your product and give last 5 minutes for questions.
The interviewers are trying to absorb a lot of things during the interview. So if you are making them think through a lot, then you are losing their attention. What do you think about technical rounds? Do you think people should prepare for them at all?
In the past, probably it was like something like a good to have, but I feel with a lot of rapid pace in the technology with AI and all, I feel the expectations have changed first.
If you are a new grad, okay, who is just graduating, this is very bad market for sure. If you are someone who doesn't have any experience in the past, try to get some experience. Hi everyone, welcome back to our podcast, Everything Product. In this podcast, we talk about different product management concepts, latest technologies, and we also host wide variety of leaders shaping up the technology space. Now, I'm in Seattle right now, so we wanted to record multiple videos this week and multiple podcasts and stuff that are useful for you guys. I know we shared one video last week that's about different AI tools we both personally use. And we also wanted to talk about different product management interviews also today and give our experience recently, because nowadays a lot of people are struggling to find jobs, and once they find interviews, they're also struggling to crack them. I'm also observing a lot of people, they're trying to fake their profiles or fake their resumes and stuff so that they can get the calls and stuff. So let me just jump with Srinath and see what his thoughts are, what are his experiences and stuff. So we'll be talking about all the interview rounds today.
Yep.
Are you excited?
Definitely. I mean, that's one thing which I've also been hearing from a lot of friends. First of all, picking up the resume itself is taking and load. Then cracking that is another big thing with so much competition. So I think it'll be interesting if we share some of the steps to the viewers there.
Yeah, I've been seeing the same as well. I've also interviewed a lot of people to hire for my team recently. I've seen all kinds of different things. So yeah, let's go through it. So at a very broad level, right? Product management typically has these interviews where you talk to a recruiter first, and then you talk to a hiring manager, and then you probably have, not probably, most of the big companies typically have a product design, or I think in Meta and other companies they call it product sense, and that you have a presentation, and that sometimes you also have it like a technical log. Let's start with the first one, right? Recruiter, I'm going to skip about that. Recruiter is primarily about just telling your experience so that the recruiter schedules a call. So let's start with the hiring manager. So Srinath, what do you think people should do to prepare for like a hiring manager round interview?
Yeah. So hiring manager is one of the first after recruiters that you would come, and it's one of the most important too, because he's gonna be your hiring manager if at all you get hired. So what the hiring manager is gonna test is whether you are a role fit to that position or not. So whether you have all the you have necessary skills to be successful in that role. So it's gonna be more, the questions are going to be more based on the role, and also sharing some of the past experiences which are needed for the role. He's going to test, he or she are going to test on that too. So I feel like it's more for role fit, and again, and little bit of combination of like maybe product sense, behavior, and all that too. But ultimately what it's going to do is if you're role fit or not.
Let's start with this one, right? How do you think people should prepare? Like do a preparation before they go to the interview itself. What are all the things you think they should like think about?
So the easiest way to crack or to learn about this is read out first the responsibilities that are mentioned
Job
and the skills. Yes, job description. Once they read that, they will know what are those necessary skills that are needed to be successful in the role, and what are some of the projects that they might have done similar to that that they could relate to this role. That way they can easily resonate with the hiring manager when during the interview process. If you are telling some examples which are completely different from what is being looked for the role, then you are not going to be a good role fit for that.
Yeah, I also agree. So mainly you should know research about the company, research about the product, research about the role in itself, and probably the last thing they should also research about is the interviewer. Many a times, not many a times, like recruiters, if they're not telling who the hiring manager is, just ask who the person is and go to LinkedIn and stalk that person.
That is not
Stalking is not a right word, but basically get to know about that person like as much as possible. Because are they passionate about product management? Are they passionate about technology? Have they been to any conferences recently? That could tell a lot about that person and what they're trying to achieve. Nowadays, people are a lot active on the LinkedIn's or their like other mediums, like people go to conferences, GitHubs, etc., etc. So it's good to know a lot about that person.
Yeah. One thing which you brought up a good point about the LinkedIn, that is gonna also, once you go to the LinkedIn, you'll also be able to see like their expertise too, like what is background they have. So you can also then closely resonate when you talk, rather than going like talking bullshit. Like talk about what is needed and what probably he is already aware about.
Yeah, you also brought up a good point earlier, right? That person is going to hire you. So you need to put the first good impression about you to that person and also really connect. So it's not about another thing, it's not just about you impressing that person. It's also about understanding that person because you're going to probably work with that person for the next few years.
Yes.
So if that person is not a right fit for you, you should also understand that during that interview. Otherwise, your next 3 years of your life is going to be very difficult.
Yes, 100%. So it's like kind of a mutual win-win situation. Hiring manager wants the right candidate who can do the, and you should also be okay with that hiring manager to work with. I mean, otherwise you're gonna be in a mess.
Yeah. Actually, one other thing is before you go into the interview itself, talk to the recruiter and find out how the interview is going to be. Many a times, the hiring managers follow a set process that is given to them. They are also middle managers. They are not experts in like interviews and stuff, right? Many a times, these managers hire probably once in 6 months or once in 1 year. So they're not doing interviews on a daily basis. So they also don't want to sit and think about all kinds of crazy questions and all. They are going to probably get a document from the company telling that, hey, these are the typical questions that we ask everyone. So just go with that standard format. So talk to the recruiter, understand that process before the interview itself so that you're well prepared. And when you start the interview with the hiring manager as well, understand how he wants to go through that interview and what are the different skill sets that he wants you to focus on. Because if he's thinking about, let's say, he wants you to be data centric, and then let's say throughout the interview, you focus on how you're very customer centric, you're not solving what he's looking for. When the interview starts, probably ask a question, hey, what exactly are you looking for the specific role? So that you can give the right examples.
No, that's a very good point. Rather than like otherwise, you both will be on different directions, and you may be telling which is right, but that's not what hiring manager wants. To.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
Cool. I think primarily for a hiring manager round, make sure you understand about the company, product, team, and also anything about the interviewer. And then prior to the interview, make sure to talk to the recruiter to understand how the interview is gonna be. And also talk to the hiring manager at the start of the interview on what his expectations are.
One last thing which I want to add, I think this is probably applies to any round. Ask good questions at the end to the hiring manager. So show that curiosity about the role, so you know about this and how you will be able to come and make a difference. If you ask, like probably what is his vision for the next 2 to 3 years, that way at least he or she thinks that you are invested in that and you are more curious. So that's going to be important. I'm sure questions are going to be very important, but when you are going to an hiring manager interview, you can ask more specific questions about the product team versus going into other rounds where it may not be the hiring manager, where they may not be able to clearly tell you what is that vision going to look like because they're not the product owners for that.
Yep. Actually, one more thing that I realized recently is the hiring managers might not have looked at your entire profile prior to the interview, because most of these calls are scheduled by the recruiters, and hiring managers might be between meetings, there might be a lot going on, and I'm sure they might be going through the resume prior to the call, and if they couldn't, they're probably going through your resumes and LinkedIn profiles during the call. So it's probably good to set the right expectations as soon as the call starts, and think of everything, right? Like you're setting the right momentum for the interview. At the start of the interview, you're setting the right momentum. So make sure to have the right energy when you come there. Don't have any kinds of distractions. Set up everything before the call so that you focus on what you're talking to the person rather than how you set up your attitudes and all of that stuff.
No, that completely makes sense.
Actually, I want to ask you one thing. I've been recently seeing some videos on people using AI tools. I'm not opposed to people using AI tools, but you're basically faking your knowledge during the interview if you're using an AI tool. So, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I completely agree with you. Again, using AI, you have to be smart rather than you have to be smart at using it, not like you do it like for everything. One thing which I've also heard examples where not me, like a couple of my friends who were taking interviews, where irrespective of whatever question you ask, they go with a set standard template of answering, even for a simple follow up question. I think the candidate was looking at another screen where that was giving all the responses, and the candidate was just reading it out, even though it was just a simple follow up question. Hiring managers are intelligent nowadays. They know that AI exists, so they can easily make it out. I think this could have been done before too, but probably people are not noticing, not did not notice much. But nowadays with AI, I'm sure like everyone is noticing.
Actually, this thing happened personally to me as well. So, I was interviewing one lady who's like very experienced, came, I think, with the title of a principal product manager or something like that. So, I had high expectations from her. It's like, okay, this person has a lot of experience. I'm very excited. I was going through the interview and asked few like typical questions, go through your initiatives, etc. I set the right expectation. Hey, this is what I was looking for and stuff. When she was answering, I felt like she's using a lot of terminology. Okay. I was like, okay, that's fine. Which is talking about like strategy or vision, etc. It was like very strong terms. Like typically in the real world, we don't use like such strong terms.
It's not natural.
And I also felt like she was looking down, looking at her phone all the time instead of having a conversation with me. And I was like, okay, there's something going on. I'm just gonna switch the conversation to not have like generic questions. Rather, I'm just gonna do a casual case with her. Let's just do a brainstorm. That's it. Whatever I asked about the brainstorming, she couldn't answer anything because I feel like she was again trying to use an AI tool, which is trying to listen to me to give some responses. Which is not what I was expecting her. I was trying to like understand her thought process. So I would tell the same to people as well. Don't use AI tools during the interview. You might feel like it gives better answers, but people are not expecting better answers. People are trying to understand who you are as a person, how you think as a product manager. So yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately they're not looking for right or wrong answer, right? I mean, ChatGPT may give you a right answer, but a standard template, which is not how you would think.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I want to like work with that person, right? So when I want to work with that person, I want to know how they are as a person. I myself use like bunch of AI tools to do bunch of like my professional activities as well. Just what is good because you're accelerating your career, you're also accelerating company's work by just not sitting on a document for like a week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they can use um, before interviews for practicing and all. I think today I learned something from you about how you can use some of these voice modes and all, right? Within Chat GPT, they can do mock interviews easily from that, right? Like it's kind of listening and giving a response.
Exactly. Actually, with that, let's shift to product design. Product design and product sense is one of the most important interviews in like some of the big companies, right? So let's jam about that. So let's go with the same question, right? How do you think people should prepare for the product design questions?
Um, as you said, this is one of the most important during product interviews. So the best way to prepare is doing some kind of lot of practice. It's not about number of cases you do, but the how you think from the different problem standpoint when thrown at you. So product design, the hiring managers or whoever is interviewing you are primarily testing how you think if given a problem, how you would approach. There's no right, again, no right or wrong answer. And asking good questions right through the interview, whether it's going to be the assumptions that you're going to make, is that they are okay, whether this is how your scope of the problem that you're thinking about. Asking good questions writing through that interview is going to be important, and keeping the interviewer engaged so you both are on the right path and solving that problem. It's okay if that you're not solving it, but as long as you're thinking it right, that's what they're gonna test. And this is most common, as I said, among any FANG company that you take up.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like have a conversation throughout the call. Let's go before that, right? In terms of preparation, I have few other thoughts there. So before you go to the interview, definitely research what kinds of questions the company has asked you for.
Mhm.
I've seen this from time to time, like be it Intuit or any other companies in the past. You have set questions that the company uses, and typically that's the same thing is given to you. So you probably use the same questions to ask. And the reason companies are doing that is not to have a partiality between like two different people. Because if they're interviewing you and me, and if they're giving different questions to you and me, how do you gauge whether you did better or I did better? If it's the same question that's given to both of us, then the variables are less. They'll see like how your responses are versus me, and then they can easily gauge like who did better. That's one thing I would definitely encourage people to research. Another thing is mock interviews, like you said, like do a bunch of mock interviews and also use ChatGPT like the voice mode. It's the best mock interviewer that I've seen. Just tell it, hey, behave like a interviewer for this specific company and imagine that you're doing this case to me. And then like let's talk through and then tell me how I did at the end of the day. So it's one of the best interviewers that you could find. So just use that, do a bunch of mock interviews and be yourself once you go to the interview.
Yep, being yourself is very important.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more thing about different frameworks also, right? So I'm one of the biggest ones that we know of is circles for
Circle.
product design. Or it's not compulsory. You can use 5 Ps or 3 Ps, three
Yeah.
Cs, a bunch of the models like this. depending on the type of question that you get. What is your thought on like using a framework when you're going through the interview?
I think using frameworks to some extent is okay. Probably it can help you bring structure, which is going to be important. But sometimes you may be too caught up with a framework that any problem you're taking, you're trying to fit within the framework, even though it may not need it. So that's when, I mean, I personally, I use a mix of both. Sometimes I use framework, sometimes I don't follow framework, but I know that I need to follow a structure. So those are my thoughts, but circles is something which I often used before, which was
Yeah.
pretty handy.
I most often like go to circles for product design. I feel like you have 30 minutes in an interview. It's good to set the structure right away, and people know that circles is a common thing. So if you can try to incorporate other things in between, that's well and good. Otherwise, just stick to a framework, and then people are not looking whether you're looking at a framework or not, rather the
Yes.
responses.
Yes.
And make sure to think about the customer, especially in this round. Everything that you talk about, think about the customer, give the responses from a customer standpoint. Make sure you have a metric in mind from the start to the end that you're solving for. Otherwise, you're giving some random response. You don't know which direction it's going to go to. And make sure the interview is also in the right direction for the metrics and the customer definitions and stuff.
Yeah, no, can't agree more.
Yeah. I think a product design is primarily that. There is no specific mantra here. Make sure to practice a lot more so that you're comfortable in the interview and have a good conversation. Let's jump to the presentation round, right? Most of the times, what I've seen is people are given a presentation few days before, and you come with a slide deck and you talk to people. So let's start with how you think about preparing for the presentation. Any thoughts there?
I know the good thing about this is you have so much time to research and create. So you're not like in front of an interviewer, you're creating all that, so which is good. So nowadays, I mean, I think a couple of years ago, probably this was a lot tougher because you had to build everything from scratch. And nowadays, with so many AI tools and templates, probably it can help you to make this faster. So from presentation standpoint, most of the time they just give me a problem. Like for example, I want to onboard new vendors to my platform. How do you go and design a vendor management portal? So it's probably going to be something like that. Or like if you take an example like Uber, I mean, I have like 10,000 plus deliveries. Tell me the best way to how do I do a kind of a route management, that kind of stuff. So it can be anything thrown at you, but make sure it's concise and it's not too detailed, and have more visuals, because then one thing which I liked as an interviewer myself, I like more visuals than content, because you can always speak during the interview. What about you?
I mean, from a preparation perspective, what I would say is, well, depends a lot on the question. If you're given a very generic question, like a case interview or something like that, then definitely answer accordingly. But many times, what I've also seen during presentations is they'll ask you, take one of the products that you worked on in the past. Talk us through the journey, like what you did. How did you do the filing? How did you look at the metrics and finally launched? For those, make sure to tell a story and set the right context ahead of time. So people don't know your company, people don't know your product, people don't know the metrics that you're talking about. So the interviewers are trying to like absorb a lot of things during the interview. So if you are making them think through a lot, then you are losing their attention. So make sure to tell a very simple story. Even if you don't go into a lot of intricate details, they'll be fine. But if they're able to capture the entire story that you're trying to tell, they would love you. Another thing I tell even from time to time is, before you go to the presentation, talk about yourself for 30 seconds. Because even if you spoke to those exact same people in the past, they might have spoken to like 10 other people before your interview. So they might not remember exactly who you are. And talking about you sets the right tone about who you are. Because if they don't remember who you are and if they're forgetting what you did in the past, they might not have the right expectation of who you are, and that tone will just go to say this is just another guy. Or let's say you explain to say, dude, this is one of the biggest products that I launched. This is all my experience. I have like 15 years of experience driving these big initiatives. This is the overall impact that I created. You're setting a very good tone about yourself. And people also, when they're talking to you, they'll go with the same flow. And throughout the presentation, what I would say is take pauses, take questions. Don't wait until the end to take questions, because many a times what happens is people have questions running at my mind in their mind, and when that's happening, they're not completely listening to you. They just want to have those questions in mind. I'm like, dude, this guy didn't answer this. This guy didn't answer this. Rather, every 5 slides, just take a pause, make sure to get all the questions, answer them in a simple way. And if it's taking time, just tell that, hey, I want to make sure to cover all the other slides. Please hold on to the question. I'm going to answer that at the end. But definitely take pauses, take questions, and then continue.
You bring up two great points. That is like whatever one might have done in their work experience in the past, the interviewer might not know anything about. So how do you explain to someone like a fifth standard kid that about the problem what you're trying to solve? That is one important one. And you also bring up another good point. Was it's not like a company presentation, office presentation. Oh, you're gonna demo your product and give last 5 to 10 minutes for questions. During interviews, you need to keep them engaged. If you're not keeping them engaged, then whatever your presentation might be, oh, it's good, but it's not what they're looking for.
I think that's all for the presentation, right? Let's jump a little bit about the technical rounds. What do you think about technical rounds? Like, do you think people should prepare for them at all?
In the past, probably it was like something like a good to have, but I feel with a lot of rapid pace in the technology with AI and all, the expectations have changed. First, I think everyone expects product managers to have some technical knowledge, whether it is a system design, understanding how APIs work. There are different types of APIs. How do the platforms integrate and all, right? So I feel it's good. It's very important as a PM right now. You don't need to code, but at least as long as you understand how architecture works, system design, and you can speak the similar language that our engineering teams speak, go with that. I think will help a lot, especially during interviews, and not on interviews, even to be successful in product management roles. I feel like now companies have raised their expectations.
Yeah.
What is your experience been?
I mean, my thought there is, it depends on the company for sure. If you're going to a company like Google or Meta, like you should be technically savvy, because you're working with engineers who are probably like very experienced, and they also want a product manager who can time to time understand the intricate details or go deeper into the product and explain how it needs to be done. Or if you're someone who's applying for like a technical product manager role or platform product management role, then you're expected to be like technically savvy and then talk through a lot of details. But beyond that, I wouldn't like stress out about a technical interview. Let's say if you're interviewing for a company like, I don't know, Wayfair. Okay, you're not expected to be very technically savvy, but you're expected to understand a lot of things, and you have the right mindset to like learn about the products and then learn about how the tech works and then give the solutions there. Rather, you shouldn't be sweating about the technical rounds.
One thing which I've observed, maybe it's a common word or theme in every interview, like sorry, job description. I'm reading something related to AI ML. AI ML is needed. Good to know. Even if it's in the not minimum, it's at least like in a preferred. So in most of the roles that I was not seeing that in the past in any of the PM roles, but now that's something which I'm seeing.
I mean, that's how the industry is going, I think, right? So it teaches more about you as a person. So, for example, there's a lot going on in the world, and if you're not trying to learn about AI, you're not setting up yourself for success. Because many a times, what happens is if you're someone who knows about AI, you have an edge. Not a lot of people in the company typically know, or they have enough time to like go research about these products and stuff. But one thing I hate people doing is putting themselves as an AI product manager. Then you're putting yourself as an AI product manager. You're you're giving the impression to the other person that, hey, I've implemented AI driven products. It could be either using the LLMs or you have actually built like LLMs or trained the LLMs, etc. So you're setting an expectation for the hiring manager. So when you set that expectation and go to the interview, then you're setting up yourself for failure. But if you're someone who has actually done that, then that's good. Then you should showcase that skill. Even if that hiring manager is not exactly looking for that same skill, he would be like, okay, this person has all of the skill set which I could use to do something else in my products. So I would just tell people to be cautious about like putting yourself as an AI product manager.
Yeah, I know a lot of people probably are tempted to see the compensation pay package whenever they see it, probably. Yes.
Another thing that I was seeing continually, probably let's talk about a few questions, right? I've been continually seeing is people just change their titles from time to time. I mean, I'm sure people might be playing multiple hats during their role in the company, and they showcase that they have that skill set. They're changing titles. What do you think about that?
So, as long as the candidate has done the work and knows about it, I think it's okay. But just for applying for the role to get a call, even though you may update the title, I mean, if not recruiter round, you will easily get the caught in the hiring manager round, because hiring manager comes from the background. He or she knows exactly what he's looking for, and probably they'll fail there. That's what.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also on the same page. I think it's okay to change the title as long as you have done work relevant to that. Because many a times what happens is companies might not have the exact same role. So, for example, let's say you're coming from a consulting background, you're not anticipated to have like a specific technical product manager role. You're probably a consultant and you
Yep.
work with multiple companies, but you might have played a product manager role where you're defining the vision, strategy, and roadmap from end to end. So, given that you have the skill set, I think that's fine. But also think about how much you're changing. Like if you're someone who was an engineer and then just to the sake of getting a product manager role, if you kept your entire experience as a product manager, then you're also giving that expectation to the hiring manager that you have so many years of product management experience.
Yes.
In which case you're setting up yourself for failure because you have less when you need to go back and showcase so much you're gonna fail.
Yeah. And one more thing, yeah, it's important for anyone who is applying or interviewing. Product management, like as soon as you join a company, it's not like you learn this language and you'll be successful at the job. Or you get some training, you'll be successful. Product management is a completely different ball game, because it's not like this only one problem you're trying to solve. It can be any problem. It's all about how you bring, unless you have experience in the past, you'll not be for an experienced product manager role, you won't be successful.
Yeah. Cool. This is awesome, Srinath. So we talked about all different kinds of interviews and we also talked about different companies and all that stuff. Probably this is the last thing that we can end with, right? If you are a new grad, okay, who is just graduating, this is very bad market for sure because there is a lot of experienced people who got laid off or something like that. The talent pool is available, so for a new
Sure.
grad, it's very difficult. So, any recommendations that you would give for them to like?
I know the job market is tough, as you said. Uh, I think to even get a call, you need to build some good networking. So, with whether it is through any conferences, if possible, you could attend. I know number of career fairs also probably reduced a lot in universities. So, I would try to see if there is any conferences or fairs in any other colleges beyond your college. So, that is one thing. And there will be very few entry level product manager roles, like in general, in companies that I've seen. So I would, in that case, I mean, what I would do is just check out if there is any path to get there if you're passionate about, because I've seen many program manager roles, program managers also becoming product managers in the past, because there was at least some path to go there. So I would also check about that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, two biggest thing that I would say is if you are someone who doesn't have any experience in the past, try to get some experience. The way I would tell that is nowadays AI tools are pretty good. you need to showcase your end-to-end product thinking. So build tools that showcase that and then put it in your portfolio. Many a times people might not take it seriously because it's not real world experience, but it still showcases your passion towards solving a problem. The other thing I would also say is I would actually give an alternative thought on that. I've seen new grads trying to have different types of resumes, one for program management, one for product management, one for business analyst, etc. And their focus is all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
If you are someone who is thinking that, hey, I might not be able to crack a product management role, exactly like you said, stick to program management, go to that path, get some experience, transition to product management. I know a bunch of people who have done that. Uh, but what I would encourage people to do is just stick to one role.
Yes.
So if you're trying for product, just stick to one resume and go full throttle on that. That way you get a lot more calls in that area rather than you struggling for multiple roles, preparing for multiple roles, no clear understanding of how each role is, then struggling in the interviews and stuff.
Yeah, no, agreed. Your responses will be all over the place if you are not thinking from like one role standpoint.
Yeah. This is awesome, Srinath. For everyone who is watching, right, if you have any specific questions on the interviews, please comment on our interview videos or just reach out to either of us. We'll be happy to answer any questions for you guys. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.
Yep. Thank you.